Water systems and communities, international waterways and ecosystem degradation. Water systems provide a bounty of resources and ecosystem services. This makes them indispensable in human and animal communities alike, providing both tangible and intangible services. Tangible services such as clean drinking water and intangible services such as aesthetic value brings worth to these waterways. These services are provided so long as the waterway remains healthy. Once degraded, these water bodies lose their ability to serve as suitable habitat for plant and animal life. This degradation continues through chronic issues such as pollution, ag-centric land use, and anthropocentric climate change. In the Commonwealth, a tradition of polluting waterways was introduced as early coal companies dominated the landscape. Trash disposal services were not provided in coal camps, where many people in Kentucky lived and worked at the time. This led to creeks and streams being used as a dump. This continued for years and continues today, be it in a lesser extent and frequency. As small creeks become contaminated, the large order water bodies found downstream suffer synchronic detrimental effects. This occurs when the effect of pollution added to the loss of aquatic organisms is greater than either effect on their own. This type of degradation can also be found abroad in illegal mining operations in the Brazilian rainforests. In this case, heavy metals are used to collect gold from ore. This process releases toxins to the air and groundwater. Simultaneously, the river downstream is receiving a heavy nutrient load resulting from agricultural land use. When the effects of both converge, the impact is greater than that of either detriment on its own.
On January 25th, 2019, a dam in Minas Gerais, Brazil collapsed, causing 206 deaths and vast ecosystem degradation. The Brumadinho Dam was built in 1976. The method of construction was the same as the one used in the Fundão Dam in Maranhão that collapsed in 2015. Both dams were constructed using the upstream method. The upstream method is a process where the dam uses the tailings itself to lift the mud up in steps, which, although common, is the least safe method of dam construction. Tailings are the minerals left over after the mining process. When the dam structure finally gave out, 12 million cubic meters of tailings were released into the surrounding environment. This mass of pollutants affected over 280 kilometers, or 174 miles, of river and covered the surrounding landscape with toxic mining runoff. The release of so much mud in the tailings caused degradation of water environments, forest blocks, farms, and the cities that rely on the rivers for food and water. They were all impacted in a negative way.
The destruction of the proverbial Garden of Eden. There has always been a debate over whether the Garden of Eden actually existed and where it might be located. But many scholars believe that if it did, that it was located in southern Iraq. The Mesopotamian marshland is considered the cradle of civilization and was the largest marshland in Southwest Asia, covering over 15,000 square kilometers. The marshland sits between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, which historically supplied the area with water. The marshland in return acted as a filter for these rivers. This was the lifeblood for the land and the people and species that inhabited it. This proverbial Garden of Eden was a paradise, home to many forms of biological life. Biodiversity was a staple of the area, hosting millions of bird species. The rare marbled teal and the Basra reed warbler inhabited this land, calling it home. The marshland was also a stopping point for millions of migratory species like the African darter and the Mesopotamian crow. This paradise was also the home to the Maidan, or better known as the Marsh Arabs. At its height, there were roughly 500,000 people whose lives revolved around the marsh. However, at the end of the Gulf War in 1991, Saddam Hussein had set in motion a plan that all but destroyed the area. This was done in an effort to crush the last of the Shiite rebels and prevent them from going underground, hiding in this vast landscape. The plan set forth by Saddam was to dike, dam, and drain the marshland to divert it of water coming from the Tigris and Euphrates River, turning the area into a barren wasteland, limiting the possible hiding spots for the Shiite rebels. Within a 5-year period, Saddam had reduced the landscape and went through attacking and burning the Marsh Arab villages. The attacks were enough to force most marsh Arabs out of the area.
Life was suddenly over. Everything was bare and empty. We didn't even have water to drink. People killed each other over a single canister of water. That's how bad it was.
As time went on, the land continued to degrade. The few remaining marsh Arabs were forced to relocate due to a lack of vegetation and clean water. A dramatic loss in animal species aided this relocation, namely the fish species that dominated the area. By the year 2000, only about 10% of the marshland was left in a functional condition.
Iraqi-born Azam Alwash is a hydraulic engineer. He spent 25 years in exile in the United States. After the fall of Saddam Hussein in 2003, he decided to return to his homeland.
You roll to a bridge that you remember when you were young, and you remember going on top of the bridge and seeing the forests of reeds, the life, the birds in the distance, and you go to that same point and you see nothing but dust, desiccated earth, tumbleweed, death.
In late 2003, Alwash was able to flood about 1/3 of the drained marshland. The water was released from 4 areas in the dams that had been built by Saddam Hussein. It was a cloak and dagger operation done together with ecologist Jassim Al-Asadi.
Through the water, you could see the seedlings, the tips of reeds growing, green is coming back, and voila, 2 months later, the water is clear, the reeds are up, and life is back. Turns out, all we need to do to restore nature is to let her work by herself.
We marsh Arabs don't need much. But there's one thing we always need, water. We're like fish. Without water, we're dead. We pray to God that it won't just be 2 meters high, but 3.
It's a hard life. It was always hard to be a fisherman. But thank God, today we can fish again. Under Saddam, fishing here was banned for years. Even though it's very hard work and we're exhausted at the end of the day, we can fish again better than before.
Ways to improve current water quality issues. Eliminate dumping. Reduce pesticide and herbicide use in agricultural settings. Proper sewage management. Practice of tree planting and using riparian zones. Recycle. Pick up litter. Reduce industrial and agricultural runoff. Hydroponic farming, which reduces hypoxic zones. Thank you for watching our video.